Welcome to today's discussion. I'm Linda, working with organizations on leadership and workforce strategy. And I'm very happy to be joined by Carol today. Carol works at the intersection of leadership, data, and organizational performance, helping companies make better talent and leadership decisions in complex environments. Carol, great to have you here.
Thanks, Linda. Great to be here.
Let me start with a question many executive teams are asking right now. How confident are we that the leaders who performed yesterday can actually deliver tomorrow? Because in most organizations, we still rely on signals like experience, past performance, or self-assessment. And while those are helpful, they don't necessarily tell us how leaders will operate when conditions change. If we take a step back, leadership assessment has actually evolved quite a bit over time, hasn't it?
It has, and you can see a clear progression.
In the 1990s, organizations focused on personality tests to understand leadership potential.
Yes, looking at traits and preferences as early indicators of potential.
Then in the 2000s, the focus shifted toward competency frameworks.
Exactly. Defining what good leadership should look like and trying to standardize expectations.
And by the 2010s, organizations invested heavily in coaching platforms.
That's right, with a strong focus on development and helping leaders improve over time. Each of these steps added value, but they were never designed for the level of complexity and speed of change we're seeing today.
So we've moved from understanding potential to defining leadership to developing it. And what's different now?
What's changed is the environment. In more stable conditions, past performance was often a good predictor of future success. But today, with constant change and uncertainty, that assumption simply doesn't hold anymore.
Does that mean we just need better tools? Better surveys, more structured feedback, things like that?
That's how many organizations approached it in the past. But improving tools alone doesn't solve the problem. What's interesting, most organizations don't actually lack data. They have a lot of it. Performance data, feedback, assessments. The problem is, it doesn't connect. It's fragmented, inconsistent, and difficult to compare. So the issue isn't more data. It's the lack of a clear structure to interpret what that data actually means.
That's very interesting. So what would a better structure or process look like?
At a high level, it comes down to three things. First, you need to make the gap visible. Where does a leader stand today? Second, you need to define what good looks like, what success means going forward. And third, you need to track how that gap evolves over time. Are we making progress, and is it measurable?
So awareness, alignment, and tracking?
That's right. And in practice, organizations need systems that support that process. But what's often missing is one of those steps. Either the gap isn't clearly defined, or expectations aren't aligned, or progress isn't tracked in a consistent way.
And when we talk about understanding that gap, that's where a more structured view of leadership comes in.
Exactly. Because leadership isn't one-dimensional. And that's where many organizations get it wrong. They try to simplify leadership into a single label: high potential, ready, strong performer. But in reality, a leader can be strong in one dimension and exposed in another. That's why we look at leadership across 6 dimensions. Behavior, how leaders operate under pressure. Capability, how they translate strategy into execution. Culture alignment, how they reinforce the culture needed next. Agility, how they adapt when conditions shift. Mindset, how they approach learning and change. Potential, where to invest for future leadership. Each dimension provides a different signal, and together, they give a much more complete picture of leadership readiness.
And what changes when organizations start working this way?
The quality of decisions improves significantly. Organizations can identify gaps earlier, align development with business priorities, and most importantly, they can measure progress, not just whether someone is improving, but how quickly they are closing the gap.
Therefore, the leadership readiness is no longer about past performance.
It's shifting quite fundamentally. In today's environment, everyone has gaps. The real question is no longer, does a gap exist? It's, which gaps matter most, and how quickly can they be closed?
Carol, thank you so much for joining today. That was a really insightful conversation.
Thank you, Linda. I really enjoyed it.
In the next episode, we'll take a closer look at the first dimension, behavior, and how leaders actually operate under pressure. Because when conditions change, leadership patterns become visible very quickly.